This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. Between two-factor authentication, strong passwords, and a VPN, you try to be in control of how your info is protected. But many other places also have it, and they might not be as careful. That's why LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points a second for threats. If your identity is stolen, they'll fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit lifelock.com/podcast for 40% off. Terms apply.
Have you ever spotted McDonald's hot, crispy fries right as they're being scooped into the carton? And time just stands still. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Welcome to the HCI family of podcasts. We're your source for personal, professional, and organizational growth and development. We share our own original research, explore industry trends, and interview executives and thought leaders from across the globe. Join us for practitioner-oriented content around all things leadership, HR, talent management, organizational development, and change management. Maximize your personal and organizational potential with the HCI family of podcasts.
Brace the rudders! Raise the sails! Raise the sails!
Captain, an unidentified ship is approaching. Over.
Roger. Wait, is that an enterprise sales solution?
Reach sales professionals, not professional sailors. With LinkedIn ads, you can target the right people by industry, job title, and more. We'll even give you a $100 credit on your next campaign. Get started today at linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply.
Jan Barlow.
I love ravioli.
Oh, tanta fame.
Since when do you speak Italian?
Since we partnered with SAP Concur, their integrated travel and expense platform and breakthrough solutions with AI gave me time back to dive into our financial future. We expand into Europe in 2027, so I'm getting ready.
Well, you can predict the future?
I can predict you'll like that message.
What message? Oh, hey, we all got bonuses.
You can save for college now.
I don't have kids.
You don't say.
SAP Concur helps your business move forward faster. Learn more at concur.com.
Welcome to the conversation today.
Thank you, Jonathan. It's great to be here.
It is a real pleasure to be with you. Where are you joining us from today?
Dallas, Texas today.
Oh, I love Dallas. Great to be with you. I'm south of Salt Lake City in Utah. Today, we're going to be talking about social impact work, how we can move from kind of the conceptual, the philosophical, and the abstract into action and to really doing the work. And we'll talk about human sustainability practices and what future leaders can do to integrate that into the work of their organizations. As we get started, I wanted to share Jan's bio with everybody. As founder of Better Job Fit, Jan is driven by a passion for transforming lives and creating sustainable human social.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. With the price of just about everything going up, we thought we'd bring our prices down. So to help us, we brought in a reverse auctioneer, which is apparently a thing.
Mint Mobile Unlimited Premium Wireless. How to get 30, 30, bit to get 30, bit to get 20, 20, 20, bit to get 20, 20, bit to get 15, 15, 15, 15, just $15 a month? Sold!
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan equivalent to $15 per month required. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Speed slow after 35 gigabytes if network's busy. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
And economic impact in communities. At Better Job Fit, they believe in empowering individuals and businesses to grow with purpose. And through their programs, they foster conscious leadership, social impact education, and personal development, equipping people to thrive, inspire, and lead for the greater good. They also specialize in supporting transitioning business owners through the 10 stages of business growth, a framework designed to guide owners at every step, whether preparing for an exit, scaling, or navigating complex M&A processes. I could go on, but I'm going to pause there. Jan, anything you would like to highlight by way of your background, personal context before we dive on into the conversation?
No, just Better Job Fit is a 501c3, so we're a nonprofit. We started out working with veterans and foster care alumni with our job matching services, and they've grown to 5 brands since then. So we're excited to be here.
Wonderful, excellent. Okay, well, let's dive in, and we can start with this question around human sustainability, and then zoom out a little bit and talk more generally about social impact work and putting the conceptual into practice. But how can today's future leaders integrate human sustainability practices into their personal development as well as into those they lead?
No, thank you, Jonathan. That's a great question because, when we think of sustainability, it's not only sustainable, right, to not create harm when it's referred to in the economic, environmental situation. When we talk about human sustainability, it's about being able to utilize your human sources in various ways, right? So to retain and to expand. So we like to think not only sustainable, but also regenerative. So it's not just maintaining, but actually growing. And what we've been able to help veterans and how we started a Better Job Fit back in 2009. A lot of veterans, when they're coming out of the service, the military says, okay, we're going to compare job description to job description. And here are some of the jobs we think that match your job description in the military. Well, what we do is it's about the person's potential and the human match of the person. How many different ways can you leverage and grow that human? And so, we're talking about multidimensional versus one-dimensional. And a lot of, our hiring practices and retention practices are a 2.0 version of a 5.0 version of humans that we are now. So it's broken. And so when it comes to sustainability, human sustainability, it really is talking about leaders utilizing their people in different ways and not the ways they think. How about looking at what the person's potential is and how many different ways you can leverage their skill sets of who they are, not a job description, right? Job to job. So that's really what we like to focus on when it comes to human sustainability or regenerative work.
Yeah, well, I really like that. And as someone, who's in both the HR, people leadership space as well as the social impact space, I really like that framing, because I really just think it's important for us as leaders to recognize the humanity in our people first and foremost, right? People aren't just cogs in a machine. They're individuals. They're humans with lives, with complex, backstories, with needs, wants, desires, with all sorts of things that they bring to the table, and things that can benefit the organization. Also, things that baggage, things that are just part of being human, and we all have that. Like we all bring that to the table, and so human flourishing is I think part of what it means to be a leader, to promote human flourishing. And so if we're going to lead a great, exceptional organization, we need to promote human flourishing within our teams and sustainable people practices where we attract and retain great people who are energized and thrive in their work and do just cool, creative, innovative stuff, and they feel, this sense of purpose and belonging and energy to just continue to thrive. All of that can only happen when we, recognize that and treat them with the dignity and respect they deserve. When we don't fall into the trap of exploitative practices and some of the things that often, frankly, corporations, so typically fall into the trap of, and we just maintain the humanity in our organizations. And it's very possible. Like, a lot of times leaders say, well, I want to, all that sounds great, but in, where the rubber meets the road and I got the bottom line and I have to, make the balance sheet balance and labor costs, blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden they start to make all these compromises and all of a sudden you start to treat people the way you never would be willing to otherwise treat people or that you would want to be treated. And it doesn't need to be that way. And in fact, there's so much research on human thriving and human creativity and human innovation and how that impacts organizations and organizational performance. If we can be committed to it, in terms of long-term sustainable practices, it will pay off. It will help the organization that you lead also thrive to have better outcomes, better performance, better customer retention and performance metrics of all sorts. So it's a win-win across the board.
Absolutely, Jonathan. And what's interesting, the last couple of years since COVID, Deloitte's annual report. They talk about human thriving, but that comes down to you have two different mindsets, leadership mindsets. You have an infinite, and then you have the finite.
Yeah.
The finite, mindset is the people that are stuck to the numbers, that are, thinking in lack, right? Because that's really what that is. A finite is thinking in competition and lack. An infinite mindset is not in lack, and there is no competition, because what one day a company will be on top, tomorrow they're not, right? So it's fluid. We live in a multidimensional quantum science world where there are no absolutes. And so leaders need to think that way, and they're not being taught how to think that way. And so, what we teach in school and what we teach in business practices, and, know the numbers and the analytics, but we rarely are teaching how to really, with the human, social, and economic sustainability, or really human regenerative movement, we're not really talking about that. We're not practicing it. So I think, to the point, you have to educate leaders to be either, to recognize that finite thinking is not infinite thinking. And there are two very different styles of leading, and one grows a business, another one does not.
Yeah, yeah, I really like that. So, it's a call to, recognizing and remembering and maintaining our humanity in how we, run our organizations from a human-centered approach for human sustainability and human sustainability practices within our organizations. And it really is possible. And there are so many contrasting examples in the world of business of organizations, same industry, similar size, same basic products or services, same basic clientele. One organization is very human centric, treats their people well, and another organization isn't known for that, and is more exploitative in how they treat their people. And we can list off several examples of this direct comparison, and both are profitable. Like it's not an either or. Like you have to either
Right.
make money or treat people,
Right.
well, or like crap, right? And so let's find ways to make sure that we honor the people in our organizations, and treat them well. Okay, let's zoom out a little bit, because certainly human sustainability practices is a big part of it, but it's only one piece of the broader social impact landscape, in trying to think about, as leaders, what we do to make a sustainable impact in the world around us, to try to be meaningful, impactful leaders. We all want to drive change, I think. Any leader wants to be a change agent. They want to drive meaningful, impactful, healthy change in their organization, perhaps in their community, in society, or whatever. And the question is, are you going to make a sustainable, positive change? Or is it going to be a flash in the pan kind of thing? And I don't know anyone who doesn't want to make a sustainable change. Everyone wants to, what they do to matter. And yet it's so hard to do, like to do something and to really drive organizational change that sticks, that will really make the impact that you want it to have, and to be sustainable, is hard. In an organizational context, within a community or a societal context, my goodness, that's even harder. And so we talk the talk, like we say all these big highfalutin kinds of things, and we have all this conceptual stuff, and we have all these abstract ideas, but putting that into practice, and to really do it, and to really be that change agent, and to really make a difference, and do it in a sustainable, impactful way, man, that's just so hard. So let's start to unpack that, and just share some ideas on how we can start to do this.
What we did with Better Job Fit, and it wasn't until we started doing it and people said, oh my gosh, like that is unique. And so I just did it. When we approached we partnered early on with nonprofits and the companies that they partnered with. with our job matching services. So we partnered with veteran and foster care alumni groups that had to find jobs for their stakeholders, those they served. So we came in and we are the job matching service that is able to take the companies. We partner with the companies that are already donating either volunteer services or a check to the nonprofit. And, my biggest question always to nonprofits is, what do you do for the companies that donate to you? Well, what do you mean? What are you giving them? Like, what are they getting? Well, they get a receipt for their donation. They get a tax write-off. And I'm like, okay. and nonprofits wonder why donors are experiencing donor fatigue, right? The natural law of giving and receiving, there's something there about that. So we created a model to where we can create custom job match patterns for any company and any position, and we match them to the stakeholders. So we created a whole holistic model that combines nonprofits, for-profits, and municipalities and the stakeholders together. It's a holistic model. The nonprofit becomes a recruiting source to the companies that donate to that, right? And so when we created the model, it literally checked off all those boxes: human, social, and economic sustainability. So that model was created early on and it grew. And so now we do social impact workshops and conferences to help communities come together to do just that: create human, social, and economic sustainability. We invite venture capital, we invite representatives from nonprofit, for-profit, angel investors, community foundations, economic development councils. And we are consciously curating events that are matching these people up with their needs and literally creating human, social, and economic sustainability in those engagement sessions.
That's really cool. And I like how you started where you were at. Like, start where you can start. I think that's one of the first lessons that I take away from your story. Because, one of the biggest mistakes that I see people make is that they see all these big, hairy, complex problems, right? We have global poverty, or hunger and food insecurity, or take any of these big, hairy, problems, climate change or whatever. These huge problems, right? They're big, huge, hairy problems. If they were easy to solve, they would have been solved a long time ago. And do we need to continue to work on them? Yes. Have people, made valiant efforts towards them? And do we need to continue to make valiant efforts towards them? Yes. But, any one individual is not going to be able to make that dent. And if I try to dive into the work to solve hunger or, or poverty or climate change, all I'm going to do is beat my head against a brick wall and be super frustrated. Right. And so what I need to do is scan my local environment, like immediately around me, my sphere of influence. Like, what do I have the potential to influence? And that's my local community, or as in a business context, that's my organization, perhaps my own team, my own division, whatever, right? So look at your own sphere of influence and then start there. Like, over time, your influence may expand. Like, you may have more notoriety. Your good work may attract new stakeholders and new donors or whatever, and you might be able to expand your impact and take on these big, hairy problems. But at least initially, start where you're at. Start with what you can do, and that's what you did. You started with something that's very doable, and from there, doing something that's very doable and something that's meaningful and something that actually can help, it gets noticed. People start to realize, hey, this matters. This is something that can make a difference. And then it starts to gain momentum. And then you can start to add to it. It becomes additive. And then you start to bring in new stakeholders and new people start to jump on and be a part of it. And then all of a sudden, you start to do more and more. And that's how this work is going to start happening in more meaningful, kind of large scale, scalable, high momentum kind of ways, right?
And it snowballs. And exactly like you said, you do have to pick one, right? I mean, human, social, or economic sustainability, right? What's natural? What's the natural next step? A lot of times it's with the people you work with, start addressing the human side of sustainability. How many different ways can you use your people? Like I had a client that he was growing and needed a leadership team. So we assessed, we had 15 people, we had to choose 6 or 7. And, we created custom job match profiles for each of those positions, right? And we matched them up. And we had one person that was a 79% match to their job. Now, traditionally, people would say, oh, that's not a good match. They're not a good match for their job. No, what that says is your job in your company, that specific job in your company, is only accessing and utilizing 79% of that person's ability. That's all that means. But you see the difference in mindset that people would say, oh, no, they're not a good match because they're only at 79% match. No, that's not what that means. It means your job in your company, that position, you're only accessing 79% of that person's ability. You're leaving 21% on the table. And what happens is when you start leveraging that 21%, that person is going to feel more fulfilled because they're utilizing more of their gifts, right? Now you got when you're leveraging that person to the max as much as you can, it doesn't matter if an extra project on the side or, a short little assignment. You're feeding that person. You're filling them up. That's what's going to keep that person, right? So that mindset, that alone, that mindset of, oh no, they're not a good match or they're not good at their job. You haven't done enough to find out what this person's gifts and talents are. You haven't, as an employer or a leader, you haven't done your job, right? I mean, how many different ways can you use a screwdriver? People say, oh, well, you use it to screw in a screw. I don't know about you, but I use both ends when I paint, lift the top off and pound the top back on. I mean, how many other ways? So it doesn't matter. Like, that's the best place to start is with what you have, the resources that you have. How about maximizing that? That's true sustainability, right? I mean, when you talk about environmental, right? We have baggies, right? You clean out and you use them again. Well, how come we're not maximizing that when it comes to our people? How many different ways can I leverage this person's gifts that will automatically feed them? It's a holistic cycle, people, right?
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And it really is a mindset shift, and we can get there. I think is the real answer here. Well, Jan, this has just been a great conversation. I know we could go on and on. We could talk about these topics all day long. I do know I need to let you get on with your busy day because you have another appointment you need to get to. But before we wrap things up for today, I just wanted to give you a chance to share with the audience how they can connect with you, find out more about your work, your team, and then give us the final word for today.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you so much for this opportunity to talk about this exciting topic because it is definitely more and more people need to engage with the topic and practice it. But also, I think, when it comes to starting, like you said, pick one, human, social, or economic, right? You can all start with one simple thing. And I think, anybody can reach out to me on LinkedIn, Jan Barlow, Better Job Fit, or you can email me at jbarlow, BARLOW, at betterjobfit.org.
Awesome. Thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure. I encourage the audience to reach out, get connected, find out more about what Jan can do for you. Check out the website, check out all the cool things that they do and the resources. And as always, I hope everyone can stay healthy and safe. They can find meaning and purpose at work each and every day. And I hope you all have a great week.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of the podcast. We hope you stay healthy and safe, and please join us again soon.